Gino Walker, something beautiful remains. Something beautiful remains could be the title today, actually. I didn't know what to name my talk, but I'm just going to go with that one. I had, you're not what you think you are, which is also true, but we get to the beautiful thing that remains when we start tearing down, the false identification. We do that in our spiritual work because we know fundamentally that there is something about us that is more true than that which we see in the life that comes and goes. And we've all, if we've lived a few years in our life, we've experienced lots of changes, yes? Where we thought at a young age that we were, for example, when I was a teenager, I thought it was my car. Does anyone relate to that one? What I was driving. I'm very close. There was a oneness relationship between me and my vehicle, very intimate, and then later in life, began dating, and then so who I was with was my identification. You understand how I was seen by that person, and then how I was seen being with that person, and all these things that life just poses all of these temptations for us to believe that we are something that we are not. But we have to discover that those things are false until we can get down to something true, yes? Is it not true that you are not necessarily going to bust your own bubble unless sometimes life sort of upends you, and those things that seem to be structural and implicit to your identity actually get upended by life, and then you are asked to say, who am I now? Who am I without money? Who am I without this job? Who am I without position? Who am I without this relationship? And those are the questions that really lead us home. These are the questions that lead us back to that beautiful thing that remains. It is a subtraction process. Every spiritual teacher that is really on this path of really bringing us to truth, not just building up a doctrine or a sort of a worship mode. Every spiritual teacher has said that in order for us to experience this peace that passes human understanding, this love without condition, we must find the essential being. We must find the stripped-down version of ourselves without condition, without accoutrements, without accomplishment, without possession. Because when we get to that person, then that one doesn't need anything anymore. That's where we want to be. That's where it's not that we aren't that already, it's that we think that we have to get there. And as long as we're running the ego program, it has something to do with one more degree, one more $100,000, one more right and perfect partner, yes? That there's, when the surface mind is running the show, it has everything to do with outside in. If I get more from out here and I take that in, it's like the Pac-Man example, just consuming. But it never gets satisfied. It never gets satiated. There is. I think in the Buddhists they talk about the hungry ghost, which has the very tiny little mouth, this enormous belly. And it doesn't matter how much it stuffs in constantly, it never feels fulfilled. And that is the surface mind. When it's running the show, it's an outside-in approach. But the spiritual life is about inside out. It's about finding that which is already fulfilled within us and living from that awareness. Then we can live life out here and we can have this and have that and we hold it lightly, but we don't need it in order to feel whole. This is the twisted mind, is that we need something to be okay. We need someone to feel loved. And this is the upside down of the truth. So it's getting to know ourselves, and getting to know who we are not is the way we get to know who we are. Because when we talk about who we really, really are, it's so wooey, it's amorphous. It's this spiritual stuff does not have any concepts that do it justice. No matter how many words I use for infinite being, even that one, it would not tell you what it is. Not the mind. The mind can't grasp something that's invisible. something that has no substance, something that has no form, has no content, has no boundaries, has no barriers, has no high, no low. You can't hold it, you can't touch it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, you can't feel it. Words fail us. But what does serve us is when we begin to chip away at everything that we're not and see what remains. This is the metaphor of the statue of David that Michelangelo chipped away. And he created this perfect specimen of David. Masterpiece. And of course, inquiring minds want to know, how'd you do that? And he said, I had an image. I had an image in my mind of David. And I just had this big block of marble. But I held this image in my mind, and I went to work. And I just kept chipping away at everything that I knew was not David. And when I got done, the image that I had of David was what remained. That's the work that we have to do, is to chip away at what we're not. There's something that we know is true about this, and yet our whole orientation to life has been acquisition, hasn't it? Didn't you think that your life was a self-improvement project most of your life? Like, start at a young age, you start at kindergarten, right? And you go to first grade, second grade, you go into high school, and you get high school, maybe you go on to college and you get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, oh my God, and then a PhD, and you just keep adding on to yourself. You know, man, if I was somebody with a master's degree, boy, I must really be something. Now, I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. I'm adding to the self. I'm adding to the self-image. And then we think in terms of relationship. Well, it would really be nice. I got a good education. I've got letters after my name. Wouldn't it be nice if I had a really great person in my life? And there's nothing wrong with that. But then what if that becomes the syllogism? If I have this person, then I'll feel loved. Danger, danger. That's a danger place. There's a big moat there. But we don't care. We go through it, and we sometimes have to go through it to discover that we don't feel that love, even though we think we had the perfect person. So we think, oh, I guess I just didn't get the perfect person. I need to go back into the field, into the field of infinite possibilities of relationships, and find someone who really will fulfill that place in me. Do we understand this one? It's an acquisition project. It has nothing to do with letting go of anything, until maybe it does. Until maybe we run out this story long enough of adding and adding and adding and adding and like, you know, it's like here's David in his perfection and you're putting marble on, hoping that you'll find this perfect wholeness. And in the process of doing that, you're covering up David. You're covering up the true self. You're covering it up. And that's why we suffer. That's why I suffer. Not because there's anything wrong with those pursuits of education and relationships. It's the motivation for them. It's what we think they will do for us. Does this make sense to anyone besides me? Okay, I'm the only one. Okay. I've lived this life. I've lived these things. I'm not preaching to you. I'm sharing my own experience. That I thought for the longest time that living this so-called American dream, which, you know, was pretty simple coming out of those of us that are the baby boomers, you know, it was like you get a good education, you get a good job, you make good money, you get a nice house, you have 2.2 children, a cat and a dog, and you live happily ever after, like the sitcom or the TV series of the 50s, 60s, whatever. And so I ran that out, and it didn't work for me. And that was a really good moment, I'm here to tell you. When you hit the wall of erroneous thinking, when you hit the wall of what you think is going to bring you that fulfillment, you're really at a beautiful place. It's pregnant with possibility for spiritual growth and realization because you've already gone in the direction, you've realized that it's the wrong way, and then there's only one way to turn, and that's back. That's the classic prodigal son story, who thinks he can take these God-given gifts, this potential that we all have, and use it to manifest the perfect life, and does it with materiality, and when he finds that the fulfillment of using all of the resources that he's given does not bring him any peace. In fact, he's more impoverished at the end of his journey than when he started. He turns around, and it's that turning point where you feel bereft of hope, but it's bereft of hope in this world, in this thought system, in this egoic plan. That's a good emptiness. That's a good place to be. Many of us see that as the important turning point in our life, and that can be from addictions. A lot of people, you think drugs, alcohol, whatever, sex is going to be your satisfaction. You find out that it isn't. That is a perfect opportunity for the spiritual journey to begin. So, who we are not is what we have to discover and begin to pull away. And so I want to show this cute little clip here. This will lighten things up for a moment, and then we'll get back into the heavy stuff again. This is a cute little thing. It's a classic Hindu story about the sheep who thinks he's a lion, or the lion who thinks he's a sheep.
One day, a farmer was walking back from the forest. He came across a little lion cub. So he brought the lion cub back home, gave it milk, water, some food. Didn't know what to do with it. He put him with all the sheep. But every day this kept happening where he would give him the food and he would, play with them a little bit, and then when the time came, he'd put him with the sheep. Time came, cub grew a little bit bigger, started going out in the fields, playing with the sheep, playing with the lamb. One day, a real big lion came out of the jungle. And when the sheep heard the roar, they all scrambled, hiding wherever they could, because they were afraid. The lion that had grown up with the sheep also did the same. The big lion stepped out of the forest, seeing this lion trying to hide, came over to him and said, "Why are you hiding? Allow me to eat them." Confused. Do you know who you are? Do you know that you are not a sheep, you are a lion? Whatever you say is fine with me, but just please don't eat me. Having seen that this lion was not going to be convinced, the big lion took the little lion and said, "Come with me." Took him to a lake and said, "Here, look at this. Look at this reflection and see what you see." And when the little lion looked at his reflection, he said, "I am like you, not like them." You are alive. And so the little lion said, "Oh, thank you so much." And the lion said, "Why are you thanking me? I didn't do it." "Oh, I did. I showed you I didn't create something new here. I didn't take a sheep and turn it into a lion. I took a lion and showed the lion that you are a lion, not a sheep.
And so, every spiritual teacher, every spiritual teaching that is the pure teaching is only guiding you, pointing you to look into the reflecting pool of awareness, to see what you really are. Not to take this human, separate sense of self and to spiritualize it. That's so often the mistake that we make, I have made, that I thought that I needed to become a more spiritual person. We come by it honestly because, again, we tend to think if we're not what we think we should be in the fullest potential, that there's something we need to add to ourselves. But this is the most important lesson of all, is that this lion, this true self, this spiritual being that you really are, this child of God, this Atman, this Buddha, this Christ, whatever by whatever name, is already in you. It already is you. It's already me. It's already my true self. So I don't have to become, I don't want to add unto who I'm not in order to become who I am. That's impossible. It's like putting lipstick on a pig or whatever that expression is. You cannot change. You cannot mask what you're not, the false self, and make it true, the true self. This is going to work against that part of you that I'm going to go become a spiritual being. Give me the path, give me the books, give me the workshops, give me the steps to take, and I'm going to do it. As an accomplishment. And the practice is looking into the reflecting pool of your own mind, of your own awareness, and seeing that part of you that already is it. And that seems kind of wooey-wooey, but the way we get there is one by one, we take what we think we are and we begin to look at it through the eyes of truth. And we begin to recognize that all of these things that we thought we were, as we just talked about, those things have come and gone. Relationships we had, jobs we had, sicknesses we had, which I had, I will share in a minute. I had a whole bunch of sicknesses recently. And I watched them come, I lived through them, I suffered through them, I watched them go. There's a place, there's an observation place in us. It's sometimes called the witness or the subject to the object that's being observed. That place is the true self. It's the consciousness that we are. And it's able to observe the passing show. It's constantly there. It never comes in and out like everything else. It's always the screen of awareness. It doesn't miss a thing. It knows every moment, every nuance of your life. And yet it was never enhanced or diminished by what happened. When you got the raise, when she told you she loved you, or he told you he loved you not, this part of you did not get affected. It's like a completely objective reporter that's at the scene of every moment of life that has unlimited capacity to perceive, but is not affected by what it perceives or by what changes. So I'm not sure. I sometimes hesitate to cause and effect in terms of I know why this happened, but I have a theory and I'm playing with it for now. Here's my theory. 3 weeks ago, I got this terrible cold turned into a terrible sinus infection with a fever. I have not had that illness for decades. When I was a kid, I think, is the last time I had it. Never get that. I thought, oh, well, you're entitled every 30 years to be sick. I get over that. The next day, I get a terrible stomach flu with a fever, and just the worst kind of stomach flu. You understand what I'm saying? Miserable, beyond miserable. That goes for several days. And then last night, it was a perfectly good day. I was thinking about today, as I always do on Saturday. And I did a memorial service here in the afternoon, which was lovely. And then I went to bed very early, like 9 o'clock, and I woke up at 10 o'clock and my head was exploding, like the world's worst headache. And I do get these once in a while. But I ended up sitting up all night because to lay down was just make the headache worse. And so here's my theory. You see this in these stories of spiritual awakenings, which I'm going to say that's what's happening here for me. You see it with the Buddha at the end of his process. Here comes Maya, and just all of these temptations and all of these voices and all of this suffering and all of these demons to sort of show up to say, you think you are this spiritual being? Well, try this on. Temptation to stay in the separate sense of self. Jesus, of course, he gets the realization, you are the child of God in whom we are well pleased. He gets his true name. He's realized. Very next thing, 40 days in the wilderness dealing with the voice in the head. Yes? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? There's a part of us, it's not our true self, but a part of us that has been very comfortable with knowing its identification as us. And when we start wanting to let go of these identifications, this part of us only knows its survival, only knows that it must continue. It must make its stance. It must make its claim upon identity. And what sure way to do it is to let us know you are a body. Check out this illness. How about another one on top of that? How about an excruciating headache? I'm going to keep showing you, you think you're a spiritual being? Well, guess what? You are a body. Sick, sick, sick. But you know what? Last night when I was having this headache, I was able to observe the pain, to notice the sensations were extreme, but I was able to notice them. There was a part of me that witnessed it. And then I knew this will not do me in. As long as I stay identified with the one who watches, the one who observes, that this beautiful being, this lion consciousness, this child of God, this spiritual realization, this is my abode. This is my refuge. Yes? This is where I need to sit and sit and sit and sit and watch life unfold the way life is going to unfold. And there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. It's going to be she loves me and she loves me not. And it's going to be, oh, I've got enough money. It's like, oh my God, I lost the money. Did you see what happened to the stock market? It all went away. And there's something beautiful that remains. This is our soul. This is our essence. This is our being. This is what God created. And what God created cannot be torn asunder, cannot be torn apart, cannot be diminished, cannot be laid low. The only thing that can be laid low, the only thing that can be diminished is who you are. Not. Not. The only threat to you is not who you are, but who you are not. And who you are not has come to die. Paul said, I die daily. I die daily. I let go today. What do I let go of today? I just discovered, I thought this is who I was. I'm letting this one go. Because you know what? It came, it went, I'm still here. Look at you. What have you been through in your life? You're still here. You're observing. You have got a story to tell. But the greatest story of all is the story of the true self, the lion that stood and never became a sheep. It was just a dream. And now you're coming back. Now I'm remembering. I'm not a sheep. I'm a lion. And I look wherever I can look to be reminded. I read books. I meet with teachers. I have people in my life who can remind me. I'm starting to forget. Remind me, who am I? This is why we're here. This is what this community is about. Our mission statement, to realize your divine nature. That's why we're here. That's our only mission. Am I going to forget again? Probably. But I know the way back. I've seen the reflection. I've seen the true self. And so have you. And it hasn't left the building. It's with you. Namaste. Namaste. Blessings.